remembers what a paired passage is? Can you give me a little info on it, Jessica? Besides what Heather had said. Heather had said that it was a nonfiction text and a fiction text together in the same packet. They're about a certain topic. Okay, so they're both about the same thing.
Okay.
Alex.
Paired passages are readings of nonfiction and fiction tied together for the same group.
Okay, so what we were just saying. Anyone else have anything to add about that? Nonfiction text paired with the fiction text. So before, on Wednesday, we had done our nonfiction text about the flower. And now we have started to read about the fiction text, which was the story, and the nonfiction text about tsunamis, right? So our two texts were A Quick Thinking Hero and Tsunami, Dangerous Waves. Which one was our fiction text? Give me a hand if you can tell me which one our fiction text was. Kyle.
A Quick Thinking Hero.
A Quick Thinking Hero. And what made you, talk with your partner and tell me what made you guys come to the conclusion that that text was fictional.
And like,
It told about the story.
Okay. What were some characteristics that made you think that A Quick Thinking Hero was a fiction-based text? Give me some words or some parts of the story that made you realize, oh, this is a story that they're talking about. Max.
It only had 2 or 3 facts.
2 or 3 facts were in that. And what were those facts about? Were there any specifics that you knew? Just that there were a couple facts. Okay, just a couple things about our tsunamis, right? That was our topic. Let's write tsunamis up here as our topic. Jessica, anything else?
Just talked about
Witnessing the tsunami. I remember there was one key part of it that there was only one person that had ever heard about a tsunami before. Do you remember who that person was? Austin?
Grandfather.
The grandfather was the only one that had known, so the people had gone to the beach wondering what was happening. Was there anything else that made you realize that this was a story?
No.
What do you know about a story? What are some basic details that you know when you're reading a story? The sequence of the story. Heather?
there's a problem and a resolution.
Problem and resolution. I really like that. That's something that might not be a part of our nonfiction text. Problem and resolution. Anything else that you can think about when you are determining a text is a fictional text? Alex?
Made up characters.
Made up characters? Or non-real life characters?
A talking unicorn.
A talking unicorn could be one. How about Tsunami, Dangerous Waves? That is our nonfiction text. What were some characteristics? Turn and talk to your partner about what made that our nonfiction text. There were a few things about that.
The nonfiction, that scientists are trying to make them more than us or something. The camera behind you.
Yep, right next to you. All right, up here, high five. What were some things about Tsunami, Dangerous Waves that were leading you to think it was nonfiction? Michael?
That the scientists are talking about warning us, or like a detecting system.
So one word you said was scientists. When they're talking about scientists doing studies and scientists talking to us, usually scientists have real life jobs. Am I right, Logan? Scientists have real life jobs. And you also said warnings.
Don't call out.
The scientists were giving us warnings about how to prevent tsunamis and how to know when tsunamis are coming. Heather, another?
It's had a lot of facts.
A lot of facts. What were some of those specific facts? Does anyone remember some of those facts that we read about yesterday? Max, you got one?
How tsunamis created.
How the tsunami's created. How it's created. Anyone else have anything? Alex.
That it can cause millions of dollars of damage and kill many people.
Damaging.
Isn't it kind of talking about the tsunami and the quick thinking here?
Logan, do you have anything?
Yeah, that the waves still goes fast as jet planes.
Fast waves. Austin, you brought up an interesting point. You said tsunamis were talked about in a quick thinking hero, right? Do you remember what our definition of paired passages was? What our definition of paired passages was? There were two things that are talking about something else.
I have a question mark above my head.
You don't know what that is? Heather, do you think you can help him out?
Paired passage is not fictional text.
So she said that they're a non-fiction text and the fiction text talking about the same thing. So you said that they were talking about tsunamis in our fictional text, and they're also talking about them in the non-fiction. So what do you think the topic of our packet was? Do you agree, Austin? That was our fiction text. So what was the topic that we're talking about? You said it already.
Tsunami.
Very good, the tsunamis. So today we've already read our fiction and nonfiction text yesterday, so we're going to be thinking about and answering some questions. Remember how we thought about the passages, how they were connected, what was the difference, how the information was presented in both. There could have been similar information in both our first reading and our second, but there also could be information in the second one that's different from the first and vice versa. So I have some points up here that show us what the difference is between fiction text and nonfiction text. The main things you want to think about in our quick thinking hero is there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. Do you remember what happens at the beginning of our fictional text, a non-thinking hero? Something, a question, yep.
So nonfiction is pretty much now.
Yep. You see this here, a person, place, or a thing. The nonfiction text is usually about a person, place, or a thing that you're learning about. Anything like that usually is a noun. Those were good. That was good sight words you were using. Heather.
In the beginning of the story, it was that the tsunami was coming in the grandfather wheel that was coming. That was the middle. That was the middle.
What happened in the very beginning?
The kids were at their grandparents' house.
Tanner.
The kids were up saying, why are you so nice?
The kids were at the mountain. And then what happened in the middle that, Heather, you had said that already, that Grandpa saw the tsunami coming? Tsunami approaches, and no one had known what was happening with the tsunami except for Grandpa. And there's one little guy in this huge village. How much of a help is he going to be? So what were some steps that got us to our ending point? There were some other things that happened in the middle besides the tsunami coming. A couple other things happened. I'll give you a second to think. Alex.
An earthquake underwater.
Earthquake, which is also the tsunami, that was what was happening. What were some other things that led to our very ending? At the very end, you could say that Grandpa saved the villagers. But how did he save those villagers? How did he save those people? What did he do? Ariana.
He set the rice farm on fire with a torch and they saw this big rice field.
He set the rice on fire, which was a huge field that he was making, and the rice was almost ready to pick, if you remember that from our details. The rice was almost ready to pick, and he lit it on fire so all the people would look up on the mountain where Grandpa was and run away from the beach and be saved from the tsunami. Did anything else happen, or did I just sum that all up?
If he didn't do that,
Yes.
they would have died.
He sacrificed his rice to save the
His own food.
He sacrificed his own way of living, which was probably the rice fields, and selling that for money
You can make
for everyone else.
They're so thankful.
Alex.
Before he set the rice on fire, all the villagers didn't know what happened after the earthquake and went to go check it out.
They didn't know, so the villagers were unaware of the tsunami. Villagers did not know what the tsunami was, and the only one that had a memory of it was Grandpa. So what I'd like you to do is, since we have already gone through this, I'd like you to turn to the activity page, which was that sequence of problem, steps to solve it, and the solution. Problem, attempts to solve, and solution. I'm going to put our document camera on.
Number 1.
Yep, number 1 right there. since I haven't filled this out, I'd kind of like your help in answering the question. In the boxes below, explain the main problem in a quick thinking hero and how this problem is solved. So what was the main problem in a quick thinking hero that you could think of? The main problem. Give me some details. Heather.
Okay.
A tsunami was happening because a tsunami was coming and before and nobody was moving because they were staring at it. They didn't know what was going on.
Because no one knew what a tsunami was. Was there anything else that was the problem? That was our main problem. A tsunami was coming and no one knew what that was. Jessica.
The tsunami was going to kill so many people on the beach playing action.
It was going to kill the villagers. And how about some of the steps that were taken to try and solve this problem? There were a couple steps. It wasn't just one. There were more than one. What was the first thing he did? And then the second thing? Tanner. He yelled from far away. You're absolutely right. Yelled from far away. Anything else that he did after that? Marie. He lit the rice fields. And how did he light those rice fields? So first he lit the torch on fire, and then he lit his fields to distract the villagers. You see how this stuff doesn't really play out perfectly in nonfiction text and how this is kind of a story? Sometimes the rice fields won't light on fire in real life, and some of those people might die. But in a story like this that's kind of make-believe, there's a chance that something like this could happen. What was our solution to the problem? There were actually a couple solutions. Something that was a benefit for Grandpa, and someone that was a benefit for the villagers. Michael.
You saved many lives.
Grandpa saved many lives. And what about something that happened for Grandpa?
Yep.
He burned his crops.
They burned his crops, but what were they going to do for Grandpa when they were coming away from the beach?
Help us on the fire. Help him take out the fire.
Michael, louder.
Help him take out the fire.
Help him put out the fire. Heather, do you agree?
Yeah.
The villagers were going to help Grandpa put out the fire.
Because they saw the smoke.
They saw the smoke and ran to help. So if these people had been more educated about tsunamis, Grandpa would never have had to burn his rice fields down at all. Does anyone still need help on number 2?
No.
Using information from tsunami, the nonfiction text explain how tsunamis form and what happens when they reach land. You still working on it? No one is? Okay. So, anyone need more time on number 3? How can people protect themselves from tsunamis? You can use information from both texts. Did we all get that done? What I really want to focus on is the steps to solving this problem. Oh, look what I found.
Oh, see, I told you I never got to hand it back.
So we have what a tsunami warning system would do and how the events in a quick thinking hero would change if the village had a system, and information from both. So what do you think, based on not just the captions but also your own thinking, what do you think should be the first paragraph that we're talking about in this story? Think about me as a person who has never read both of these stories before and is just reading your essay for the first time. They know a little bit about tsunamis, but they don't know the story. Kalina.
Right about the problem.
Write about the problem in the fiction text or the nonfiction text?
Fiction.
So we're going to write about a quick thinking hero. That's a good idea. So we can talk about
Coach first.